Lesson 54. These are the review ideas for today. Number 16, lesson number 16, I have no neutral thoughts. Number 17, I see no neutral things. Number 18, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. Number 19, I am not alone experiencing the effects of my thoughts. And number 20, I am determined to see. So we were kind of bouncing through death before. And I was talking about how my friend's mother had died in her arms, and how when she came home, we were living together at the time, that she was upset. And as the stuff that she was talking about and going through, I confronted her with the idea, with the perception, with my perception, where she was looking at suffering and loss and death and all of that, that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. And there was a moment where I could have dissuaded her to be where she was exactly supposed to be. And that, even in a bigger span of her mother giving birth to her, of, them being parent and child, of them growing in, when my friend grew into adulthood, of them being friends, of her living across the courtyard from each other in the same building as her mother visited back and forth, or getting her mother an apartment so that they would be that close for themselves and other family members, all of those things, her caring for her mother, her friendship with her mother, her partnership with her mother, and this thing occurring on the last day where she thought she was taking her home and she died in her arms, that this was through, without suffering, without loss, without death and grief, as the thunderous things in our heads and our emotions that she was going through. I stopped her. I said, hey, this is God. God was here the whole time. God told me not to push you. Or just a little whisper, don't stop, Kyle, just stop. And you went there so that you were with her. She was with you in your beginning, and you were with her in her end. Can you not see God there? So, as I'm watching this, three big lessons came. So, everything proceeds on, and funeral and such, and family and upset, and mourning. And one of the lessons I got, and I said to myself, we talked before in the lessons before, about, we can kind of attach it to I have no neutral thoughts. Neutral thoughts are impossible because all thoughts have power. They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one, but thoughts cannot be without effects. As the world I see arises from my thinking errors, so will the real world arise before my eyes as I let my errors be corrected. My thoughts cannot be neither true nor false. They must be one or the other. What I see shows me which they are. So, and then 17, I see no neutral things. What I see witnesses to what I think. If I did not think, I would not exist, because life is thought. Let me look on the world I see as representation of my own state of mind. I know that my state of mind can change, and so I also know the world I see can change as well. So I'm looking at this. I'm looking at, my friend's mother has died, and I'm a front row seat because I'm on the sofa, with my apartment drama, and I'm like, whoa, God put me here for this. Oh, holy, wow, and so, but that's a private thought, but then, it starts coming out and other people saying, hey, you're there and you can be helpful and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. And so in all of my prayers is, God, show me, tell me, what's the lesson? What am I seeing? What am I supposed to see? Let me see deeper. Let me see clearer. And I was like, oh, you are seeing this for when the time comes for when you have to experience this. Pay attention. Pay attention to what's being the health issues, the funeral issues, the feeling issues, the confusion issues, the family issues. Pay attention. This is coming for you. Now, sure enough, this came for me. It would have been, I want to say 10 years later, almost 10 years to the 10 years later, as my own mother became terminal, and all of the same strokes and heart issues, and not as my friend's mother was a bit more surprising because she was a bit more mobile and ambulatory. And healthier than my mother was. And so all of these things are happening. And so as this is happening, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm totally ready for this. I'm completely ready for this. And as weird as it sounds, I was completely ready for it. I was like, okay, gotcha. Because I paid attention to when it happened, when I was put in a place that said, this is not only about this person, my friend and her mother and their family, and what they were going through, and you are there to watch this, to see this, to understand this, so that when it comes your time, you don't have your Kyle little boy thoughts, oh my God, mommy's dying thoughts. You have your Kyle spiritual adult thoughts. Ah, okay. And because of that, I will tell you that in my being able to see clearly, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. I was able to share my perceptions, and I'll even say this was even funnier or wilder, that I had spent about that 10 years in between there teaching more and more and counseling and doing workshops and doing one-on-one counseling and coaching and mentoring and all different kinds of things, to just almost the exact line of being a psychologist or a social worker, and sometimes, really having to pray on what to say to people, how to help people, going through all different kinds of things. But when I got to my mother's bedside, I was a fully equipped counselor. And there came a point where I was counseling her. I was counseling her about dying, about her life, because her brother and sisters had all died. So there were very few older relatives left, and my mother had been in the rehab because of legal issues and safety issues and stuff like that. So she'd been there for several months. And part of what that entailed was that, she was just kind of hanging out. She was just kind of hanging out as she was dying, But it kind of, when you have 24-hour care, the joke was they could keep a potato alive. So my mother and I, in complete gallows humor, were, well, how long is this dying gonna take? This is some long dying. And I moved down there. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, where she was at from New York, to be with her. And what did happen after 6 months, I was like, well, I thought I moved down here because something was going to happen in 3 months. We're now at 6 months. And she was like, and I was like, well, maybe I should return to my life because this looks like a long-term thing. And she's like, no, don't go because of other issues. And so I stayed. And yes, I can see part of my presence helped to extend her time in her life and enjoyment and connection. And we resolved lots of things. Because I stopped seeing, and I was like, all right, well, I stopped seeing death. I stopped seeing my thoughts about death, and there were lots of thoughts around me about death from family members and stuff. I stopped seeing death as, and I haven't for a long time, and that's what I talked about in the last one, that enlightenment sometimes is a real son of a bitch, because I stopped seeing death in the same way. I stopped seeing death in a morbid way. I just saw death as an extension or a different extension of life, a different move, a different intentionality from what we recognize or see as life. So what I will say, and what I will say that poured into, and perhaps you can find your own experiences in here, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts, that I had changed my thoughts about death so that my thought, and people, family, doctors, nurses, everybody, and I even took little part-time jobs down there just to give me something to do on the odd days when I wasn't visiting, or writing. I spent a lot of time writing books down there. That my thoughts about death were not morbid. They were not suffering. They were not grief. They were not loss. They were not, I accepted it My mother said to me at one point, she said, I'm dying. And I said, well, we all are dying. And she said, no, I'm dying. And I said, yes, we're all dying. You're just probably going to go before I do. You're going to go through that experience before I do, unless taking the bus back to the house, I get hit by another bus. But yes, I've accepted that you're dying. And it kind of, I would say kind of did upset other family members that I accepted her death with her. She accepted it, though there was fear about it, fear of the unknown. But she accepted it, and I accepted that she was going to die. So what I will offer you is that my prayer has always been, I am determined to see and recognize the shared nature of my thoughts. I am determined to see. I look upon the witnesses that show me the thinking of the world has been changed. I would behold the proof that what has been done through me has enabled love to replace fear, laughter to replace tears, and abundance to replace loss. I look upon the real world and let it teach me that my will and the will of God are one. And I learned in that situation, or I lived in that situation, I experienced, I perceived in that situation, when love replaced fear, when laughter replaced tears, when abundance replaced loss, it changed. It was, I had always, because I'm an only child, because of my own stuff, had always thought, oh, this is just gonna destroy me when it happens. This is, oh, Lord. And my mother progressively got sick over like a decade or so, or chose to be iller and not take care of her health. And I was in New York and she was in Charlotte. I always thought, every phone call, I thought, oh, this is it. Oh, this is it. Oh, this is it. Oh, this is it. And then it slowly became the it's of illness and heart disease and heart surgery and all those kinds of things. But for 10 years, there was an aspect of me that even in my spiritual consideration thought, well, this is going to happen. 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 And then finally it started happening. And I said, oh, okay, well, now it's happening. I don't need the anxiety about it happening anymore. And I was able to be present. So what I will offer is a determination to see, if you can see that in truth, whatever you're dealing with, that you can then toss out the anxiety. Because now you're looking at it. Sometimes when I'm really worried about, oh, how much should I spend? What's in my checking account? I click on it. I choose to see it. I choose to, somebody said a couple of weeks ago, someone, as I was leaving work, said, oh, the director, blah, 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 blah. Did he speak to you about such and such? And I was like, no, they didn't speak to you about it. Well, what would they be speaking to me about? And they were like, oh, never mind. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, transference of anxiety. So I go to the director. Is there something you want to speak to me about? No, there was nothing I wanted to speak to me about. Oh, okay, bye. That when I choose to see that I can handle anything, that it alleviates anxiety, nervousness, trauma, and replaces the fear with love, with laughter, with abundance. So that's been Lesson 54, an amalgamation of 16 through 20 about seeing and the willingness to see. And as always, I'm your host, Kyle Phoenix, KylePhoenixShow@gmail.com. You can find more of these at Facebook. We're reviewing the lessons now. A group of the lessons start just reviewing the previous lessons. So we've so far reviewed up to 20 lessons through, 51 through 54. You can email me. You can check me out on Facebook, Kyle Phoenix. We have the Kyle Phoenix television show that comes on 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in New York, but it is live stream broadcast at M&M, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, from their studios online, mnn.org. So I always want to give them a shout out because we've been doing it there for 10 years. a whole decade, and we have some interesting topics and shows on there as well. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.